Welcome back to the Peak Performance Podcast. We have one of the most beautiful humans on earth here today, Lauren Mansfield. How are you, mate?
I'm great, thank you.
Jay, you good?
Good, ready to go.
Ready to go. For those who don't know, which I'm sure is not the case because Loz is an absolute superstar. Again, she's got a shopping list worth of accolades and achievements in the sporting world, obviously basketball. But we are lucky enough to have her down here at Peak as one of our cap coaches. Mate, let's just dive straight in. Often we go in a chronological journey of how you got involved in basketball, but we're going to jump to the end. I reckon it's good to mix it up every now and again and talk to us about what you're doing here at Peak with your basketball crew and sort of where that passion arose from.
So I think it's something I kind of wanted to do for a long time. And then when I was playing for Lightning, I started doing clinics, school clinics, working for Basketball SA. And from there, I kind of realised that was really what I wanted to do. And so at the moment, we've kind of 2 years old now. We've started some different skill academies, coaching young girls, even some older girls too. And we're kind of just branching out. So we've started a Capstrong Academy, which is a S&C academy for young girls, as well as mentoring. We're trying to get to a bit of off-court stuff as well. So just kind of taking a holistic approach to helping these young girls play basketball and also in life as well.
So CAP stands for Complete Athlete Project, and as you just sort of lightly touched on there, seems that you and Bash are really taking a whole person approach versus really just honing in on basketball skills. Why is that important to you?
Yeah, I think just both of us on our own journeys have realised the importance of the whole picture. It's not just what we do on the basketball court. It's the little 1%ers that make us better as people and then obviously as athletes as well. So I think we understand the importance of being a complete athlete and we want to try and instill that in these young girls.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think one of the underlying themes we've had with all of those athletes we've had on the podcast so far is modesty, and that's not just to pump your tyres up. I want to be your voice because I know that you don't promote yourself as much as you should as well, but I just look at and my heart is full when I stand up at the mezzanine level and see the basketball court just absolutely buzzing with you and Bash and Ella out there. But what people may not understand is while they're doing their workout over in the gym is that they're seeing an Olympian in action, somebody who's played more than 200 WNBL games, who's been a co-captain of a club. Like, you've achieved so much. For me, I think we're really lucky to be sort of living in this day and age at the moment because, certainly for our young daughter Matilda, having somebody visible like you, supporting and mentoring and teaching these girls is amazing. Did you have anybody that you looked up to and got to connect with sort of as you began your journey at all?
Yeah, to be honest, I think that was something that was missing for me. I looked up to obviously my older brother Jay, and I had players that I liked to watch, but there wasn't really that, one female role model that I was like, had access to and all those things. I went to the Lightning game, so I certainly looked up to them, but I didn't quite have the access to them, and I think that's something that's really driven me to, be accessible for these young girls.
Amazing. Because, it's funny. We sort of often joke about it, and this is no disrespect to yourself or anybody that we talk about here, but I reckon when Matilda's, 15, 16, we'll say, do you know you used to be in the gym with, Lauren Mansfield, Erin Phillips, Steph Talbot, Chelsea Randall, amazing. And she'll probably say, who are they? There'll be some like new TikToker, but it'll mean a lot to us. Anyway, we might be a little bit older then, but just a quick little diversion. Your brother Jay, an absolute superstar. I love him to death. Our northern suburbs connection. I knew that I really liked you from the first time I met you, but shout out to any people from Salisbury that are tuning in here. Like I've joked about before, we used to cruise around Paralawi and Salisbury in the VT Commodore.
Yeah.
Were you a Salisbury High girl?
I was a Salisbury High girl,
Yeah.
yes. I'm very proud of that too. Obviously Jay's been my hero. I used to love going and watch him play footy for Salisbury. One of the things I'll never forget.
He did some things on the football field that just like I didn't know how they were even physically possible, but hopefully he tunes in and yeah, certainly something that I can resonate with as well. I always really looked up to your brother too. Let's sort of go back further then. So talk to me about your first interactions with basketball. Did you play lots of different sports or did you hone in super early?
Yeah, I grew up in a basketball family. Both my parents played, so they coached, and then all my siblings played as well. And as I've already talked about, Jay was like my biggest inspiration, so I used to love watching him. I did play netball right at the start, but then, yeah, I quickly got over that. No offense to the netballers out there. Sorry, Jamie.
That's okay.
But yeah, then once I started basketball, I was pretty set on it, and I loved it straight away. I played like school footy, soccer, kind of played a bit of everything. I was definitely very sporty, tomboy type growing up. And yeah, but basketball, I've always loved it. I've played since I was about 7.
Yeah, wow. When did you realise you think, mate, you're going okay here and this may be a viable pathway for a career?
Yeah, I think in high school, I think I realised quickly that I wasn't super studious. I really just wanted to play basketball. And then from there, that's when I started looking at the college pathway. Yeah, because I knew I wanted to. That was really all I wanted to do. So I think, yeah, early days in high school probably.
So talk to us about how does that look? Let's say you've got a young female athlete that's in your program or someone who's playing at a club level and they think, yeah, I want to take this seriously and I want to make it as high as I can. What do those pathways look like in Australia for a young female basketballer?
Yeah, I think there's a few pathways. I think obviously playing at the state level, that's a really a good pathway for the more elite players. And from there, that's how I got recruited to go to college and stuff like that. I think we're trying to, with CAP, actually create another pathway for these young girls that maybe aren't at that elite level, try to get them there. I think another pathway would be obviously the NBO1. I think that's really come along. And now these junior girls, as they go through the ranks, there's that. That's a great pathway now, feeding into those senior programs and the NBO1 clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess rewinding back to that time then, what were your thoughts and feelings as you sort of jump on a plane and ready to head over? Had you known or talked to anybody who'd been sort of through that experience before, or was this just like, okay, I'm going to jump in the deep end and give it a go? Like, were your family sure about it from the start, or did they sort of have any questions about sending you to a different country by yourself?
I think they were definitely worried about me. I wasn't super mature at that point, but I did kind of just get thrown into the deep end. And
How old were you?
I was 18.
Yep.
Yeah. 18,
Had you lived out of home?
No, yeah. So
First
it's like,
experience
had
on a
just
plane.
finished high school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight on a plane. Dad came with me. I think he was not ready to just let me go into the unknown. So he was there for 2 weeks. But yeah, just got on a plane. Kind of didn't really know what I was getting into. But
where did you go?
I went to Midland College in Texas. So that's a junior college. Which I think that was a good pathway for me. It was more of a smaller community as opposed to a really big, D1 college. So I did that for 2 years. Absolutely loved it there. And then after that, I went to Iowa State University, which was a bigger Div 1 school. Did 2 years there as well. So very different places. But yeah, it was an amazing experience for me to just kind of grow up a little bit. Figure things out on my own, and yeah.
Was there still an academic component to it as well? And did you have to change that sort of lack of studiousness,
Yes.
if for lack of a better word?
Yes, I think it was actually really good for me because I literally had to get good grades to be able to play. So yeah, I think that was the part of the growing up, just like making sure I did that and studied and I ended up getting my degree, which was great. Yeah.
A lot of the time we sort of tie these conversations back to people's relationship with training and exercise and potentially how that's changed over the journey. As an absolute generalisation and certainly the industry is ever evolving, from my perspective and what I've seen and heard in my experiences is that America are great at getting the meat and potatoes or undertaking the meat and potatoes really well in terms of squat, deadlift, bench press, those sorts of things from an S&C perspective. But maybe some of the finer, the pointier edge of the sword is neglected a little bit at the top level, and I've seen that with some really high level athletes as they can come in here and they can bench press 140 kilos, but then we do like a little cable abduction and their hips are shaking. Was there an S&C program? I'm imagining maybe two completely different ones at the colleges you were at. Was it a thing? Not to say back then, not saying you're super old. We're the same age, so we'll take that together. But yeah, when you were sort of going through those programs?
Yeah, so at the junior college, there wasn't really a program. At Iowa State, there was. It was kind of like 2 workouts a week, maybe 3 in the mornings. A lot of conditioning in the preseason. But yeah, I would kind of agree with your statement about just the main kind of lifts. And I think I was one of those people when I came back. I was like, I'm not as strong as with the cable abduction and things like that. Like you think you're really strong because you can lift all this weight, but like you're actually not as strong as you think you are. So I do think that's missing, and obviously that was a long time ago, so I'm sure it's probably come a long way. But yeah, I think that's something I definitely noticed coming back to Australia and starting WNBL and lifting with those programs.
As a female athlete in your journey coming through, you're just saying I'm sure things have probably shifted and changed and you've had lots of different experiences at different clubs and through your journey, but did you have any knowledge, awareness with gym and lifting and how that would improve your sport? Did you have any preconceived ideas as a female as whether you should or shouldn't be doing that, and how was your sort of thought process or relationship with the gym and exercising for your sport?
Yeah, I think that's my whole mindset has completely shifted. I think at the start there was, I was told like, don't lift too heavy, and there was definitely that fear of, getting too big or too muscly.
Yeah.
But I think, over the years I've certainly learnt from, coaches and just through experience too that lifting is so important for me, like mainly like injury prevention, like being strong so that I can perform on court. Obviously, like your speed and being able to jump, all of that is included as well. But I think there is maybe a lack of teaching of how important that stuff is. And I think, again, back to CAP, that's really what we want to try and teach these young girls because they don't know or understand. So, yeah, I think, I've definitely come a long way with realising the importance of, the off-court development, the strength and conditioning stuff.
And look, this might drag up some shit. You can be honest here, Lozzie. Sean was your strength coach there for a while.
Yeah.
But I know Sean has, predominantly in the professional space, your roles have been in female high-level sport. Obviously, Lozzie's team being one of them. How has your experience been in being a S&C coach for females in that professional space, and has that experience shifted how you coach?
Yeah, I think so. I've always thoroughly enjoyed it. And again, not just saying that because you girls in the room are outnumbered here. I think, again, these are generalisations, but probably more than anything based on opportunity is that females tend to be a lot more engaged and ask a lot more questions, and you never do it for thanks, but there seems to be maybe a greater level of gratitude because they haven't had these opportunities before. Whereas potentially if you're working in a professional male space, particularly at those top levels of organisations that have had opportunities for as long as they've ever known, you might be their 15th S&C coach and like, okay, this is just the same shit reinvented in a different way. I know on another one of our podcast episodes we sort of joked about that circular motion that there seems to be in the S&C world. We're doing similar stuff to what we did 10 years ago, but with a slight different nuance to it. For some girls, this is the first time they're getting the opportunity to. So there's that component of it. So I've really enjoyed the engagement and being challenged with questions because if I can't answer the question appropriately, then I need to absolutely, reevaluate whether it's worth having this exercise or this volume or whatever it might be within the program too. I think it's helped me to mature. I'm certainly talking about a number of different things. So, it's almost on a weekly or fortnightly basis with different athletes. We'll talk about, training for the cycle. I know we do some pre-recording, so I'm sure that Bridget Belton's episode would have played by now. If not, tune into that one a little bit later down the track. But, looking at how some of those aspects of hormonal change impact training and ability to perform. Understanding things like, for example, women can still have, what we would have used to consider a normal cycle of bleeding once a month. However, hormonally, there can still be some funky things going on as well. So we still don't truly understand or know exactly what's going on unless we do blood samples and things like that too. I've really enjoyed it, and to see the opportunities for women continue to expand, to see visibility continue to increase, and admittedly, because we are really in the foundational aspects of these opportunities for women's sport, we are seeing greater results from it as well. At a male level in some aspects, it's the minutest of changes and the nuances of peaking at the right times and those sorts of things, as opposed to women, we're taking probably leaps and bounds forward for sure. At the risk of jumping forward too far, obviously, we've just touched on your college experience there, and we met each other almost 4 years ago now, which is flying, Lozzie.
Yeah, it has.
I remember sitting up in the mezzanine level of our of Peak 1, and we'd just done a little assessment, and we chatted. We had a little discussion about our age and your injury history.
Yeah.
I think maybe you'd only played 7 out of 21 games the year before.
Yeah.
And we discussed, I think, as you said, and I got real proud there. I was like watching Matilda, achieve something great. When you just said to me your mindset shift there in regards to, I think it's more about injury prevention, because we had that discussion. I said, Lozzie, your best ability is your availability. And I don't think the Lightning are going to get anything more out of you jumping 2 extra centimetres higher. For us, it's about keeping you on court. And I remember there was a sort of like a bit of a puzzled look and maybe a bit of a sadness when I said there's going to be no plyos in your program. There's going to be lots of long hold ISOs for you. But I want to thank you for the way that you just tackled it with an open mind. And we're really grateful that, the next 2 years you missed a single game in 2 years, and that was for a tight lower back, which is pretty cool. So, has that? So I guess your experience and your mindset has changed in that. How's your body feeling at the moment, and what does your training look like now?
Yeah, and I do want to thank you for that conversation, because I think that definitely helped me on my road to learning, how important it is for S&C is for injury prevention. I think at the moment I'm kind of in a place where I've had a very heavy load the last probably 3 years. So body's feeling it. Body's feeling old or older. But I think I want to, again, get back to lifting, really honing in on my lifts during this off-season to try and get my body back to feeling a bit better. So, that's kind of where I'm at. Obviously playing NBL 1 as well, and looking forward to, that season. Really trying to get my body back to feeling a bit better.
Something I've come to learn about basketball, I'll be honest, I was super naive to the whole basketball world before Sean was involved in being at the Lightning, and it's been an absolute pleasure, first of all, getting to know all of you girls and building friendships and all of that, but also learning a bit more secondhand about the sport has been really cool. I think that's something here at Peak that I've really valued, is meeting the people first and then getting to learn about the sport is really cool. It gives you a bit more of an interest and then appreciation for what people do. And something that I have come to learn through Sean and watching you guys is your season and schedule is so full on. Like there's not really any breaks. And at your level, it can be all year round. Like you go overseas to play, or you're playing NBL 1 in between playing, you finish Lightning and go straight into that, and you were at the Olympics as well with your 3v3, which I'd love you to touch on in a second as well. So, that scheduling in basketball is crazy. So, I guess how do you manage playing literally all year round?
Honestly, that's one of the really tough things about, I think, female sport. I know for basketball in particular, we don't get paid enough to be able to just play, for 6 months. We have to play that off season. And that's pretty much every Australian basketball that I know. So, that is the hard thing. And I think back to just the S&C, looking after your body, I think that's a big one. I think trying to manage loads and trying to find rest where you can, just so you can prevent those injuries. But I think loading's a big thing. Just managing, you can't not do anything, because that's when your body kind of just like adjusts to those doing nothing, and then if you try to come back, you're at high risk of injury. So it's hard. I think recovering and all those little 1%ers, eating right, all those things. But it's definitely hard in women's sport, I think.
And on that rest and recovery, I know we've been talking mostly physical here, but I know you and I have had some conversations over the time as well about you really value, and maybe you can share whether this is earlier in your journey or later in your journey, but I know you really value that more holistic rest and wellness and mindset as well. Has that been something that you've developed later in your game, or have you always been interested in that space?
Yeah, I think I was always kind of interested, but I think it's been a bit of a later journey for me. I think I've really noticed the importance of my mindset and really tried to work on it and build good habits and journal and, breathe and meditation, all those things. I think, as I've continued to develop and within my journey, I've just really wanted to hone in on the 1%ers, and I've realised how important they are. So, I think that's been, particularly probably the last 5 years. But I've absolutely loved it, and I feel like it's going to help me tremendously in my next transition to what I do like after basketball as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that can apply to other people who are really well ingrained and maybe looking for those 1%ers, as you said, or maybe those who are just sort of taking their sport as a whole. It could be basketball, could be any other sport seriously. Do you have any tips for those who are a bit unsure about it or don't know where to start with journaling or breathing? What was your starting point, or were you sort of just fully into it straight away, or is it something that's grown on you a little bit more? Anything for those who are listening and maybe want some tips from people who have applied it?
Yeah, I think it's hard, and I still struggle to do it. It's a bit of a journey, but I think just like trying to do one thing at a time, trying different things. I think I kind of started with journaling and just writing down my thoughts, and then something that really helped me was like habit stacking. So like in the mornings, I have like a morning routine where I journal, I read, then I do breathing, maybe meditation, maybe some stretching. So just like blocking out like half an hour in your day and just like getting things done. Obviously start with one or two things, but I think because it's hard, like once you go about your day, it's hard to remember to do these other things that you probably think less about. So yeah, and I think for me, like waking up in the morning, have my coffee, journaling, reading, just like finding time for myself, and just kind of getting it all done and then going about my day.
Absolutely. And now across your career, is it 5 different clubs you played at now? 4 clubs, 5 clubs? I've lost count. Almost as many clubs as I've played in local football.
Oh no, that's way more.
How have you found transitions between clubs? And maybe I think it might be important for those people who, again, at any level are thinking about transitioning across. I imagine it's scary. I know often we think, I'm not going to go over to those guys over there because they're flogs. And then you get over there and they end up being just like the team that you're with at the moment. There tends to be a culture around sporting clubs. But talk to me a bit about your experience. And you don't have to give specifics. You can if you want to.
Yeah.
You can name names. But has it been pretty similar cultures? Has it been like 4 or 5 very different cultures across the league?
I think it's been very different, and I think I kind of like it. I didn't love like moving around all the time, but I feel like I've learned so much doing that. I've learned so much about the league and how different clubs operate, and I think what I really learned is like no matter where you go, there's going to be good things and there's going to be bad things at every club. There's going to be, you might have a really good opportunity, get a lot of court time at one place, And then another place you might not play as much, but like you might have better coaching or like develop more. So I think that's been really good for me to learn. It's just like you're going to be in different situations everywhere you go. But there's always going to be good things and bad things, and just like taking those things and learning. And I think for me, like learning, you know, if I want to coach later on, like what are the things that I really liked, like taking the good things away from each place I've played at. Like this is like the best way to do this and this and this. And yeah, like obviously the situations have been very different at different clubs as well. I've played at clubs where you get fed after training. Recovery services are amazing. Personally, I loved the S&C at Adelaide Lightning.
You don't have to say that, but thank you, mate. I appreciate it.
Yeah, but there's like different things in all different clubs, so it's cool to like learn what you like and what you don't like.
Sorry to butt in. I was just going to say this may be an assumption, but I know you're not the most like outward person, like outgoing person. What about those who maybe are worried about making connection with their new teammates, and have you had a specific strategy around that at each, or has it just been dependent on the situation? I imagine you've probably, the longer you've gone in your career, there are already some mutual connections, but it can be scary coming to teams that are established or trying to make new friends every couple of years in a new state as well.
Yeah.
How have you gone about that?
Yeah, great question. That's been actually something that like scares me every time, just because I am so introverted and it takes me a while to get to know people and kind of come out of my shell. I think I've learned to get better at it. But yeah, I think something I've done is just trying to find, one or two people that I can open up to and feel comfortable with. And generally it's pretty easy to do that in a team. You have people that, you might have the similar interests and stuff like that. So just kind of trying to find, one or two people that I feel good around, feel comfortable, and just, getting like slowly opening up.
Sport's great for that, right, though, because you're all there for a common goal. So at the end of the day, like, you don't have to go out for breakfast, lunch and dinner with them and, like, actually socialise. That's not, like, the whole reason that you're there. It's kind of a byproduct of what you're doing. You're all there to train, play and be the best you can be. So, like, hopefully for you, like, that maybe has been a little bit of a link. Like, I would probably identify as being a bit more on the introverted side than my lovely husband over here who's at the other end of the scale. And I think, like, sport provides that, like, key concept, common ground, right, for you
Absolutely.
To be like, yeah, we're all here for the same thing, and then you can build sort of friendships on the side.
Yes, definitely. And I think that's like, I feel most comfortable in a basketball stadium, like around people in that setting. Whereas like if I went out for coffee, I'd probably be a bit more like, shy and so yeah, exactly. Like
well, that's
ground.
interesting. If you are a bit more introverted and identify as that, you're out playing in front of some pretty big crowds, and we can talk in a minute about, I'd love to finish on your experience at the Olympics.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that as being someone who's maybe a bit shyer and your job and career is to perform in front of people?
Yeah. I think I've kind of learned to, or tried to, just kind of zone all that out and just be very present in what I'm doing and being on the court. And honestly, like I try to focus on my teammates a lot. Right, who am I running plays for? Being a point guard, that kind of helps. That's the other thing. Being a point guard, I have to be loud on the court. So I really struggled with that, but I've learned to do that. So, yeah, I think just kind of focusing on being present in the moment and trying not to think too much about everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
What was the noise like? So for those who haven't followed, Loz actually just was in a grand final series. Unfortunately, just went down, but an unbelievable effort. What was the noise like in those sort of final 3 games?
Yeah, it was unreal, particularly playing in that game in Townsville. It was just so cool to see that amount of fans. We had 5,500 or something. I think it was a record. Again, amazing for women's sport. And, yeah, just felt incredible to play in that arena and have all our fans. Obviously, we didn't get the result we wanted, but, yeah, it was really cool to be part of.
For sure.
Now, we are starting to run out of time, but I think it would be remiss of us not to touch on, we've talked about all the amazing things that you've achieved along your journey, but I think one of the, a really cool experience for people to hear about would be your most recent experience in 3v3 basketball, and being at the Paris Olympics. That's, you know, the Olympics is, for a lot of people, I think, the pinnacle of performance and sport. Can you share with us, just sort of as best as possible, wrapped in a bit of a bow, about getting involved in 3v3 basketball and how it was to be at the Paris Olympics?
Yeah. So I kind of just like the coach messaged me one day and asked if I'd be interested in playing. And so I, of course, said yes, went to a camp, and then my first ever 3x3 game was playing for Australia in an Asia Cup, which is pretty crazy. But yes, from there, I've just absolutely fell in love with the game. Obviously, a bit different to the 5-on-5. It's just a smaller court and just the 3 players on the court. It's been a bit of a journey, but I feel like I've accomplished a lot in that sport. And obviously, like you said, the pinnacle, playing at the Olympics, which was, I don't even have words for it. It was, you know, just unreal, overwhelming, incredible. Just to be there at this such a major event with all these amazing athletes, walking around the village. I was trying not to fangirl most of the time, but
who were you fangirling over?
There were many. We did see LeBron on the bus and like the whole USA men's basketball team. That was a crazy moment. Who else? There was
Were you
so
around
many.
Jess Fox? Did you see her at
I
all?
saw her. Yes.
How cool was that?
Yes. Yeah. So many.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Physically, just from a subjective perspective, is there a harder or easier variant for, you know, because 3-on-3 is like you're on there pretty much the whole time, or it's quicker rotations. Maybe you get a little bit more of a let up. Maybe it's not as natural. Do you feel that there's one that's more physically demanding than the other, or they both have their sort of, you know, their differences?
Yeah, I think they both have their differences, but I think 3x3 may be a bit more physical. The actual game is more physical, like the refs let a lot more go. And
do you like that or not?
Not really, especially when I get posted up by the big players. Like, I'm in trouble. But yeah, so like, and it's like it's constant, but it's only 10 minutes, so I feel like it's over really quick. But then we have to play 2-3 games in a day, so yeah, it's kind of different. But yeah, I think, and the court is like a bit harder to. So yeah, I think the 3x3, like, I'm usually more sore after those tournaments for sure.
Hopefully we've got some young athletes listening to this, and I'm sure we will with the CAP crew as well. And our goal would be that maybe somebody listening to this will go to the Olympics one day. If you have any advice for them about the way maybe they should sort of approach the experience, is there anything, you know, that you would give to them about the way that they soak it in, or what they do sort of if they do get that opportunity, or any other big sporting event? You know, we talked about a grand final before. You know, what would you say to those youngsters who may get to play on the biggest stage one day?
And I think this is something that I would have told my younger self too when I was perhaps in some bigger events earlier in my career. Like, take in the moment, like just be really present. Because I remember previous, I was like on an Opals, it was like an Asia Cup or something. And I just spent the entire time, like, I didn't even take it in. I feel like I was so like, oh, got to do this. And just so like thinking about like
What's next?
Like, how do I perform at my best ability? How do I achieve this? Whereas I didn't like take in the moment. So I think, and I was like, having learnt that going to the Olympics, I was like, okay, like, take in every single moment here. And I think that helped me to do so. So that would be my advice. Just take it all in, enjoy it, like, journal, write down things that happen in the day, because it's just like such a blur once you're done.
Amazing. I think that's a bit of a way to wrap up. That's our 30 laws. We're always super tight on it. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your presence and what you add to the facility. We think that our community is so lucky to have somebody like you, within these 4 walls. I can't wait to continue to watch your journey. I think you've still got plenty of great years left in the tank. And I think what you're doing for women's sport and basketball in particular will be remembered for a long time. So we appreciate you, mate. And if you guys are around the facility, make sure you come and introduce yourself, say good day. If you got young girls, get them out, play sport, come shoot some hoops with Lozzie, and look forward to our next episode as well.
Thanks for having me.
So there you have it, our chat with Lauren Mansfield, the Olympian and all-round WNBL superstar. My 2 key takeaways are, number 1, for those athletes in particular who play year-round sports, strength and conditioning is so vital for load management and making sure you keep your body nice and healthy. And number 2, if you are fortunate enough to play on the big stage, whatever that might be, in a grand final, at the Olympics, is take it in, absorb as much as you can, and use tools like journaling to ensure that you can reflect back appropriately.